There you go. Hello? Okay, there we go. Let me get this closer. Call to order the Traffic Safety Bikeways Pedestrians Committee for Thursday, March 16th. First, I would like to ask for the approval of minutes.
I move we approve the minutes for February
16th.
16th. 16th? Wow.
That's when it was.
I second that we move.
All right, thank you. And then what's the next thing I say? All in favor of approval of the February 16th minutes? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, it passes, I guess.
Yes.
All right, the next we have on the list is appearance of interested citizens, and I have Art Moyer. Moyer?
Oh, I just signed in as.
You don't want to come say hello? Okay, we'll just wave at you. Thank you for coming. Okay, does anybody else want to come up and say anything? Oh, you guys just, it must be the sun. Okay, well, maybe get you back out there before. All right, so the next thing we have is the Brooks Alder Crosswalk update. And I have a little bit of information on this. I emailed the principals last night, so I did let 29 days lapse before sending the email from our last meeting. But I'm hoping to get an engaging conversation with them. In that, I also received a message on LinkedIn from RJ Navarro, and he wanted to just make a note that we're not, as much as we've asked for police presence in this area, that it is a low-income area, and we're not really wanting a lot of tickets to be handed out, but more of just, hey, slow it down for right now. And I agree with him on this while we continue to sort out what can happen. Bill Lawyer has made a suggestion that the flashing lights should go up there. As far as how that next step goes, I think the suggestion would be that a committee member actually attend the May 8th and 9th or 9th budget committee meeting and ask that this be pushed into the budget.
I am on the budget committee.
Can you do both, or do you have to?
Well, I can recruise myself and go out and come back in.
Do you want to do that?
I can.
So, before that, I know, and I understand what you're talking about. Tammy's working on the neighborhood management traffic plan. And so instead of just asking for that and pushing that through, we still need to follow the steps that we're putting together with that, plan, and go through, the enforcement and traffic study and follow the steps that Tammy and we are collectively working on. So there's a little more to that instead of just say, hey, can we throw it in the budget? So.
Okay, go ahead. Hirsch?
I still think it's important at the budget committee process to mention the need.
Yes.
May not get in this budget, but the need and the fact that Tammy's husband is also, Francisco is also on the budget committee, that we mention the continued need for those kind of safety devices in Keizer. And so the city council will hear it, but it doesn't mean, I know Tim is in the process of finalizing the budget and all that. So, but for next year.
Following the process, yes.
Yeah.
Which is why we're
Okay, so
doing this.
Let me back up then. Then we just want to put it out there during on the books during the budget process that this is a pretty heightened area that we still need to go through the NTM in order to get the assessment completed first. And hopefully we can do something between now and, we have a month and a half, a little bit of a month and a half. Okay, a month and 2 weeks. Okay, a month a week. But still, I think that, let me talk with Ken Gerloff. I got his email address. I can get him up to date on what's going on for his association and what I have done as far as sending out the email. But I honestly think that there's not enough bandwidth for the teachers to really help out in this area. So I'm fully prepared to hear that, but maybe a bigger plan of what does next year look like might be a better discussion with the principals. So I'll continue on that good foot there. Mike, did you have some comment?
I just have a question for Mike. Do you remember how much the flashing sign cost for the shoreline we put it on?
8,000 a piece, maybe 14,000 a piece, somewhere in there.
And that shoreline thing isn't the same as what we're talking about.
Yeah, they're two
for
different.
the
Oh, so what
Alder.
are-
The Alder one is like what they have on Portland Road, those buttons you push, and it
Like-
makes the
Oh.
yellow thing flash real bright.
Rectangular, yeah, rapid flashing beacon, like we're gonna put at the Heritage Center, you press the
Right.
button, it flashes
Yeah,
and you
okay,
cross.
okay.
So a little more to it, I guess, but
Okay.
So we'll work on getting the NTM started on that, and then hopefully just kind of giving a suggestion of this is probably going to be something we'll be up on a priority list for next year.
I know I'm on the agenda already for talking about the safety conference, but these kind of items, crosswalks, was a hot topic.
Really?
And there may be monies available through ODOT for these kind of things for communities. Because a lot of the program managers were saying, we'll be getting a pot of money. So whether we,
How it shakes out, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, it has to go through city council for those kind of things and
Okay.
the steps as Mike described.
Okay. Michael, you had a comment?
Just one more question. I can't, even though I go by it several days a week, is that crossing on Brooks or Alder, is that zebra striped like this? Both sides?
one crossing,
Oh.
north to south.
Right, but I meant like
It's
both sides of.
There's only
of
one
Brooks.
side to cross on.
Oh, so you're saying only one side to cross, okay.
Yeah.
Is there-
So it's not two sides, it's just this
Right,
one
okay.
major area.
Is that something that,
It's too small of a street, it only needs that one. I don't see that it needs four.
well, I'm thinking
Or
both
two.
sides of,
No, because all the kids are going this way, so it's really, if they're gonna go down Brooks, they are going to only need this crosswalk. This would be too much to have both sides. So I do think it only needs one.
kids aren't coming from
I mean, they're,
west of.
yeah, but they're just walking across. That's not the problem. The Alder Street, walking across that is not the problem. It's coming across Brooks and Alder and stopping, getting them to stop.
Right. I guess I just wanted to make, because I think when people see this, they're slightly more apt to slow down or stop for crossing.
I agree with that, and it is there. It's just, I don't think it's gonna get two. I think it'll just get this, it only has the one and only needs the one. Just because of how all of the kids are cycling into that street to get to the school. And then the stopping of the cars is what we really need to have happen.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I'm going to go ahead and keep moving forward if there's no more questions on that one. Thank you. So the next one was committee purpose, but this is just a holder item because we're going to turn this all into legal when we get the neighborhood traffic management program put together. So I'm going to skip over to that. Tammy, unfortunately, is stuck in traffic and will not be able to make it to this meeting, but I did take a phone call from her real quick to give an update. We have finished our part of it, and now she has questions that need to go to the committee, and mainly specifically Michael. So we're going to get that forwarded over to you. If you can actually interact within the next 2 weeks, I'd like to see that go to the whole committee for their review after the 2 weeks is completed. And then that way we can bring it back at our meeting in May, right? No, we're in March, April. Okay, April, and hopefully be able to get a sign off from the committee to ask it to go to legal for review. Okay? Sounds good. All right, so moving forward is SCAT's report from Tammy, but unfortunately, she's not here. Did anybody have any SCAT detail? Okay, I knew.
I was sitting with Mike Jaffe for 2 days. So there's a survey out. In fact, as you got that.
Yeah.
It's very, very important that we give feedback.
Right here, you've got it on the back of your
Yeah,
agenda.
I was just
Right,
showing everybody.
yep,
If
it's
you look on the
very
back of your,
important.
Got one in the mail.
This
Already
is,
did mine.
Good try.
ties in with the Oregon Transportation Safety Action Plan, and there was a lot of discussion, and they need the input, and this is our chance.
Okay.
Because it really will amount to a lot of good, hard, on-the-ground work being done in the next year or two.
So I'm going to ask the committee if you guys will take not guys, but if you good people will take a chance and read this for. I know, I'm just trying to be good about it. But if you guys can go through it and actually fill it out, the more people that can comment, the
It's
better.
quick. It's quick.
Yeah, and I do think that we've been hearing for a year what all has been going on, so I think we have a lot more that we can add to that.
It is quick. I took it today, and there's a part where you have a map, and you can put in a street that you think is a safety hazard. They ask you if it's driving hazard, or biking hazard, or pedestrian hazard, all separate sorts, and you can go directly to that street. You move the map to a point, and then you click, and then you've got that marked in, and you have a place to do comments, and you can talk about whatever it is. And then there's a place further down in the survey where you can add more comments. So it didn't take long.
Is it only one area per entry?
No, you can do a whole bunch. I did two, because
You
I
did?
have a certain place I walk in Salem, and there was 2 places where I don't feel safe. And so I put both of those in there.
Okay.
And
Well,
you can put as many as you want.
Awesome. I will encourage the committee, especially our bikers, to really maybe expand the area that they know are issues, and then also their neighborhood association area. And then also the neighborhood associations, if you guys didn't see it, let's get that out, because the deadline on this is April 3rd. Or is, right? That's the plan. No, the entry might be before then.
It's, the online is from March 13th to April 3rd.
Okay. So maybe if the
There is a
associations can.
deadline, so.
Yeah, so if we can get everybody to submit our areas, we might get more attention. So thank you. Any other questions, Michael?
I was just going to comment that when we were talking about this last time, Sergeant Leday was talking about how so much of our stuff is data-driven, and car crashes are data, but there's a lot of times where we all know places aren't safe, but the data doesn't show that they're not safe because there weren't as many crashes, but we just know that they're not safe. So think about that as you're filling in.
The areas.
Yeah.
Thank you for that comment. All right, next on the agenda is the Safety Action Plan, and Rick, do you have a report to give us?
Yeah, and that was, I took that assignment last time to actually, it's the same issue, it's the same survey.
They're together?
We're talking about. Huh?
SCATs and the same, wait.
Yeah, the safety, unless I'm incorrect, it says the Transportation Safety Action Plan,
Yeah.
which is what Mike Jaff was talking about. So this list of things that you gave me, Jamie, is part of what I'll submit.
Okay.
But these are not the ones that were in the TSP though, right? Because
No,
I'll look
no.
at it too.
Right.
And bring out all the projects that have not been done and include those. So-
Okay, so you're saying number 7 and number 8 should go together?
Yeah, they
Okay,
are.
and I'm going to take Tammy's name off of that and just have
And-
you.
But I guess I'm gonna do the things that we've heard from citizens, and they're in the TSP. Everybody else can put in
Their
just-
specific
Yeah,
areas.
their own.
I like
input.
that
Yeah.
approach.
I do have some questions on this list you gave me, but maybe I can just get with you right after we're done.
I'd like that.
Because it looks like several of these things, probably 2/3 of them are some way or the other in the works and they're being done. And so they wouldn't go on this survey, I wouldn't think, if it's already underway.
Mike Griffin, I think that we need to look at our short list again and see if there is any updates that you can give me from 3 months ago, 2 months ago. That's the list I sent to him. So now that you know that.
And just for instance, like that very first one, Hidden Creek at Brook Hollow, where they were talking about sight distance problems and so forth. Now, it looks like it's
checked off.
in the works, and
Okay.
there's
He
a
just said it's
contractor going to
checked.
paint it.
I like
Yeah.
that.
Go ahead and ask him now. Let's if you want to,
Oh, okay, so that's that one. Dearborn at Clyde Creek, a crosswalk, it says not at this time. Now, what does that mean exactly?
we're not reviewing that one at this time. So that would be one I would like you to put on that list.
Okay. Verda at Dearborn, says, is this the Verda Lane project, which will be coming? Chariot bus issue. I didn't know what you meant by that exactly.
I hope,
That was brought up by a citizen, and it was a chariot bus issue, and I don't know if
I
no one
know,
here.
from what I
forwarded
was
on
told is
Chariots, I'm not
Chariots
sure.
was taking, that was not in our preview.
But
so
was
they're gonna
it,
do
was it an area for people to wait for the bus, or what was
Yes.
the specific issue?
I'm not
I
too
can't
sure.
recall either.
It was the question was tying into the apartments being built on Verda and kind of collectively all of that looked at, which includes the question about the crosswalk there at Dearborn near Clay Park, and they were all kind of lumped together. And so the crosswalk, we'll look at at a later date. The Chariots seemed, I don't know much more about it. It seemed kind of cut and dry, but I don't know what to point to what the exact issue was.
It was the bus stop, right?
It was where the bus stop is located.
Well, it's got to be relocated with the new apartments.
There it is. And that's what made us stop on that one, is until those apartments are built, because we're not really clear on what they're doing with that side of the sidewalk, we can't go any further. So at this point, it's on hold.
Okay.
And I thought we'd taken that off but looks like.
It's on my short list.
The Cummings Delight speed table, that's
In the
that-
works.
That shouldn't be on the list because it's ongoing, going forward. Shoreline speed display, things have been ordered. So
Done.
again, done.
Done.
yeah.
That one's done.
Library crosswalk, solar beacon in design. So again,
So that's designed and contractors on board. Freecon is next week, and work will start in conjunction with Cherry Avenue and the ADA ramps. The same contractor that's doing the ramps for the resurfacing project will be part of installing that. So that work starts in April. I can't say they're going to have it done the first week of April, but that's part of that project this fiscal year. So I can't say done, but that's
In the
moved a lot
works.
farther.
Okay.
okay, there's just three more. Lock Haven at McNary, and I assume this is the issue, Hearst, that you've brought up before.
Again, a crosswalk.
Yeah, crosswalk. And here it says no action at this time, but it seems like maybe this is one that should be on the list.
I think it should be on the list.
Agreed.
I don't think it's in this budget cycle, and I think we need input from the neighborhood association as well as from McNary High School on it.
But it should probably go on the survey if you.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's what,
yes,
that-
yeah, oh,
that's,
yes. Oh,
Debbie,
my
that's what
goodness.
I'm saying, yeah, it
Yeah.
should be on the survey. Bailey 8th, Shamala Road, crosswalk for library addresses this, so I guess not on the survey. Windsor Island, Willow Lake, paint, no parking, no action, no parking signs were installed previously to east to Windsor.
Like,
Hershey, yeah. Hershey, you may be closer to this than anything, you live in that corner.
The city did put in no parking signs on the north side of Willow Lake, which comes right off of Windsor because of the traffic and the heavy trucks going to the gravel. Windsor Island has only sidewalks periodically on the east side and periodically on the north side. And with the building of the new storage facility, there's sidewalks, but there appears to be quite a disconnect,
So is filling in the gaps
filling in the
a
gaps.
project that we
But
could put
it
on?
is, I believe, and Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, it is on the long-range plan for improvement, Windsor Island.
As things get developed,
Yeah, well, that whole area is developing pretty
Yeah.
quickly.
yeah.
You know, with the police lab out there now, and
So I'm not sure if that needs to be on, I don't know if that stays on the list or just keep it on there as monitor it and, you know.
If it's on the transportation plan from a few years ago, it's, you know,
Because you mentioned no
Seems-
parking on Willow Lake. Is that how you started
No,
this?
it says there's no parking signs were installed.
So currently, yes, we installed 2 no parking signs right in front of the apartments. And so it would be on the north side. When you come around Windsor Island Road, it'll be on the north side of Willow Lake. And that's where we widened the road some here recently. All the dump truck traffic comes up. So we will widen that area. And then someone had come in and asked about from the apartments coming out, looking to the west, having difficulty because a sight vision difficulty. So I think what you're talking about is that sight vision
The sight
difficulty.
vision
And we looked into that, and
It's not an issue.
it's not, it was an issue that was brought up, but we're not
It's
gonna
been
do
checked
anything.
off.
So-
Okay.
Okay.
So I think that probably should come off, but Hirsch's filling in the gaps should stay on, but I don't think that's,
Yeah, I'll say it that way.
yeah.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah, and then the TSP, I'm pretty sure you're going to have more questions
Yeah, I'll-
on those ones. So if you want to draft an email, that will work. And then I'll get our short list cleaned up.
Okay.
So
All right.
by all the
Yeah,
stuff
I'll
that
go
was
through
said
that
today.
TSP and then I'll
right.
get that in before the deadline.
Appreciate that. Michael, you had some?
I was just gonna say, I thought number 7 was where Tammy was just reporting on SCAT's meetings. Is that?
Yeah, that is.
It is?
Because I think she said she works for SCATS, so she can provide a report every month.
Thank you for
So
that
the other one,
clarification.
the safety action plan will come off, when does it end? The survey?
The third.
The third.
Okay, yeah, so we'll have the safety action plan off, but we leave the SCATs on. And she might not have a report, but if she does, that's her spot.
Looks
Sound
good to
okay?
me. Yeah,
Okay.
that works.
She
It's,
works for ODOT and is one of the representatives on the SCATS committee that Kathy Clark was the chair.
oh, thank you. Do you have anything
I have
else with that?
Question
Go ahead, David.
to Mike. What's the status of the Wheatland Road project? Or do we have a Wheatland Road project or went through the planning?
I'm not sure, it just, well, Hirsch has his hand up here, so.
I was on the committee.
Yeah.
All the preliminary planning and design has been done.
Yes.
Now we're in the phase of finding money.
So is there any point in saying, there's another case we get discontinued sidewalks all over the place? And any point in marking that as still a problem area?
It's been pretty well marked. The city council knows it. The DKS, the engineers that did the evaluation.
So it's not gonna do any damage to say we still got,
You need to go ahead and put it on the survey.
Yeah,
Oh, on the
because
That's one of
survey,
the things
yeah.
they ask for on the survey is disconnected
Right.
sidewalks. They
Yeah.
want to know where those are.
Yeah, that just reinforces, it will help as Mike and Bill do all this funding. And they're going to do the project in stages. And there may be some safe routes to school money used, some matching money from us, some federal money, some state monies. But the design looks really, really good. But, yeah, mark it on the survey.
Thank you. Any more comments on the safety action plan report
Not for me.
committee? All right. Next, we have ODOT Traffic Safety Seminar. Hirsch.
Oh, my goodness. Here's their safety action plan for 2021.
Okay.
And they were going to be developing they're mandated to have another one out by May for this year. And they're supposed to be, the feds want them to do another one. It's not just Oregon, but for gosh sakes, in Oregon, we're killing people. I mean, the death rate for car accidents, pedestrian, bicycle is just off the board in the state of Oregon right now. And we can't, the seminar, there was great program managers from the various areas of speed and light, crosswalks, bike ped, law enforcement were there. And we're going to have to rely a lot in the future of using technology because a lot of locales cannot do the enforcement because they don't have the staffing. That includes the state police. So it's kind of up to groups like this. I just did a similar talk to Marion County Parks. As you're designing parks, think of safety. How those vehicles are going to move. They had a lot of new ideas on crosswalks and some of the new designs. There was a lady that was a guest speaker from Florida that was talked along, and the fact is all of us were almost crying. She lost her husband in a run-through, running the red light, and she was 9 months pregnant and all that. It was just, and she was able to get a bill through Florida mandating those. And there was some talk there with ODOT that, and I know this committee has talked about those in the past. And ODOT kind of said that there's a new look at those. And I think we may want to bring that subject up again in the future.
Okay.
But I brought some of the literature, and it was uplifting, but not uplifting. Our death rate is way up there. It's not, oh, we got 10 more. We have hundreds more. And it's not just Portland or Salem. It's all over the state. The rates are just not good. Other states are reporting the same thing. And the federal government, got the name of the secretary. I just had his name on my. Yes, he sent a kind of a video to talk, and it seems like the feds are serious about this too, so.
Well, good work. Thank you for the report, and hopefully we'll see some good light shed on this. Is there anything on this that you wanted to talk about that you gave us, Hersh?
Oh, there's just various literature that we can, there was a handout on crosswalks. I gave a poster that, you know, I think Mike and I have talked about, why isn't there a class for drivers about bicycles? There is now. And it's being by the Street Trust in Portland, Bend in Eugene. And we talked with them about possibly coming here, and that's a possibility. The other thing I should mention, that what was good about this is Gina, who was here, Mike Jaffe, and Heidi and I got together about funding for adult bicycle classes. And there's a will to do that. And so within the next 2 years, looking at funding, looking at what nonprofit they could get to do that. And instead of piloting it in Portland, like a lot of stuff, we want to pilot here in Salem, Keizer area. So there were some good discussions behind the scenes.
Okay. Go ahead, Michael.
Hirsch, two things. This Oregon Transportation Safety Action Plan, is that for every type of road and street, or the cover looks like a highway, so I wasn't sure if that includes urban streets too?
It kind of, wherever ODOT has a street.
Okay.
And almost every city in Oregon has some sort of ODOT highway or such going through. So yes, it covers that.
Okay.
And they'll be doing an update. Mike's kind of doing the county or the tri-county area for us. And all this will feed in. And the data, you know, they really didn't collect a lot of data during COVID. And now it's all coming in, and it's not what we want to see. And I think the police can say that it's just, and we've heard from the neighborhood associations, you know, there's speeding, there's this. The data is starting to show it. It's not good.
So my other question, the driver's safety for bicyclists, or the class you were mentioning, how is that to be done? Is that kind of like
Well-
you put it on and they can come if they want to?
Well,
or-
this is interesting. I talked with the instructor from the Street Trust and how they're doing it. They're working with employers. So they've been to sanitation companies, and they're big in Portland, talking directly with drivers, doing the class, some other CDLs, some businesses being a little more that have drivers and don't want to have that liability for getting this training. They're now looking at senior centers, such. So it's expanding.
It's coordinating, yeah.
But they're excited about maybe partnering down here. But right now, I mentioned that I would mention it to our chamber and the businesses there. That's their first focus versus just, we're having a class show up. It's going to be more, and they're also talking about with AARP in the classes they do, kind of melt, because those, for us people over 21, that's a discount on their insurance if we go to that class, So there's some really surprisingly innovative thinking that's suddenly going, I shouldn't say suddenly, that was brought out.
Okay. Thank you so much for the update. So the next, we're moving through this pretty fast, is the committee member input. I'm gonna go a little bit different. I'm gonna start with Brenda, and this is probably where we should bring up our idea that we talked about.
So I went to Pendleton since we were here last, and they had safety flags for where they were crossing the street and there was no stop sign and no traffic light. And I thought that was really cool. So I was like, whoa, won't those get stolen? And I looked it up, and I found out that Kent, Washington also has them. And after two, I was like, oh, I'll just ask if you guys have already discussed this. The way both cities were doing it is a local nonprofit would adopt that corner. And so the Girl Scouts would fundraise to buy the flags and maintain them. Some of the cities, I don't know if some of the cities would replace some flags, but the concept was it was a nonprofit and it gave them civic duties that they want their children to learn, or the veterans or whoever wants to do that.
So for historical reference, probably about a year and a half ago, I wrote to council asking them to put up, because I've seen several instances on Cherry and
Mandarin.
and Mandarin. And it was met with the flags will get stolen. I believe Brenda is bringing a new light to this because she found an inn of where we can get support and maybe get the nonprofit involved in helping us keep the flags that in there for the ones that get stolen. That way there is no implication on the city to have to continue to replace this. So this might be something that we're going to revive and put in areas. I think what we should probably do is maybe identify for areas that we'd want to see these in. And I'm not quite sure what the next step would be. Maybe, Debbie, do you think it would be to bring it to council and see if they would allow us to start talking?
My suggestion would be, if you brought it that early, they would think of it as half-baked. I think what you'd need to do is get all your ducks in a row. You need to determine what intersection you would like it at, and know exactly what nonprofit you would have lined up to manage that intersection, and exactly how all the funding and everything would be spent. If you had everything like that and put it in front of them and said, look, it's only gonna cost you this amount, or it's not gonna cost you anything. Can we do this as a pilot program with the possibility of maybe doing other volunteer organizations adopting an intersection? They would be much more likely to look at
Move
that favorably than they
Okay.
would if you just came and said, can we do that, can we try this? I don't
Okay.
think you need to ask them if it's okay to research it at all.
Okay, thank you, Debbie. So do you want to go ahead and take the next steps, and then we'll put you on, or just during the committee member input right now while you're getting your traction on this? Just any kind of updates you can give us monthly.
Okay, so my plan is then to research how the other cities are doing it and how they invite the nonprofits, and then solicit from
You can,
us, which
I think you can
intersection
solicit
we'd
from
like.
us the 4 or 5 areas we
Yeah.
should probably pick.
and what nonprofit we might think would be interested.
And then I
in
think
that.
any suggestions from the neighborhood associations, if you have an area that you want us to think about bringing that to, that would help too, and bring that to our next meeting. Okay, great.
you.
Thank you. Hirsch, do you have anything?
Other than planning the bike skills fair on June 10th, might change it, but it'll be with the Keizer Police Department. And then Salem Housing Authority has requested a bike skill event at the Parkway housing facilities. There's some apartments on the Parkway, and
Okay.
a bike skill event there.
Mm-hmm.
On the neighborhood associations, we all had a meeting together, and it was a presentation by Kathy Clark on the state of the city.
City. Awesome, thank you. Michael,
I don't have much, but I had a question. I might have brought this up before, I can't remember, but we talked about how our transportation system plan is so out of date, and we've tried funding, or getting funding for through a grant, and I don't think we were successful in that. The fact that we share a UGB with Salem, and we have so much interconnected streets and roads with Salem, is there a legal barrier to having a joint TSP for our two cities? And I guess I don't expect an answer tonight, but is that
I think that's kind of, because financially, Keizer can't, I mean, it just beat the streets that touched each other, right? That the borders are.
Well, I'm thinking, like, we go through the process simultaneously, and where we do have interconnected streets and roads, for sure they'd have to be in line, if you will.
Isn't this given to it? Who makes, or who does
So
this?
we
This is
hire-
Keizer. Keizer does
Yeah,
do
we
that. Okay,
hire-
it wasn't ODOT.
Yeah.
All right.
So, and then obviously within our jurisdictions, separate jurisdictions, we could, tailor things. But by hiring a company to do the combined area, there's got to be cost savings there. Maybe even more likely to get grant funding because we're doing it simultaneously. I don't know.
I'm gonna ask Mike.
Well, we're not the only city that butts up.
Right,
Yeah.
when we share the UGB, that's what makes us unique.
That's very true.
Yeah, may I cut in for a second?
Please, go ahead, counsel.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt this discussion. If I did, it's very good and important for any of those, as mentioned, roads that blur the boundaries and come close to Keizer and Salem and the UGB proper. This may be something, trying to put my Kathy Clark cap on, where SCATS would be involved, the Salem Keizer Area Transportation something. I don't have the other S in front of me. I'm really sorry, everyone. But that committee would at least be able to roll up some of the issues, because major transportation stakeholders like Chariots are present for that as well. So I definitely don't want to discourage the idea of joint TSBP sessions as they may come up. I would also argue, though, that there are a few different interest groups already pretty well established that are taking policy ideas, and would be happy to hear any group Keizer, Salem, or join out on any of those ideas.
Thank you. Did you want to maybe check into any of that and see if you can be of assistance?
Yeah, I could,
Check, Mike.
Mike Jaffe, yeah, okay, I'll talk to Mike Jaffe about that, and, Debbie, who is it that funds the grants to do that? Is it ODOT that funds the grants?
No, it's, in the past, Mike, do you remember back when ours was done before, we had a consultant. I think it's consultants, but ODOT does the funding. I think we
Yeah.
got the grant through ODOT, but we hire consultants to work with, usually they have a committee with one or two people from this group and planning commission, so they get a lot of different input, but it's all led by a consultant.
Okay, so yeah, maybe I guess I'll talk to Mike Jaffe first and maybe ODOT too to see if that would even be a no-go for them.
And Shane too.
Yeah?
Yeah, please, wishing to. Thank you for that update. Just for the record, at 6:41, Tammy has entered the building.
Thank you, Tammy.
Entered the building.
Madam Chair, my apologies for being late.
No, I already let everybody know. That's not anything that you could do. Our police liaison was trying to get up and leave us because he thought he needed to be on there for emergency too. Okay, so we're right now on number 10. We're going through committee member input. I'm going to skip over us and go ahead and see if David has anything.
Yeah, a couple comments. One, I'll check with the city's policies regarding, with the new construction that's going on, the placing of mailboxes in the middle of a sidewalk. I was out pulling the kids the other day, noticed I couldn't pull the wagon on the sidewalk because there's 30 mailboxes.
What area?
It's north.
Oh,
But it's all over the town with the multiple, not the single mailboxes, but where you have whatever they call those, bunch of them. So I'm gonna check to see if we have some policy. It's not so much about the ones that are there, it's that we've got a lot of new construction. I'd hate to see some apartment building decide they need to put their 60 units out on the curb and then have the sidewalk there, which makes the sidewalk about 18 inches wide.
hopefully not.
That was one thing. Second was, and I guess I don't think we have, I think I looked into this once. I was a little concerned about the city or the county putting any more driveways on the River Road. And I noticed that we're putting a new apartment building in right off Lock Haven and River Road. I would hate to see, and I'm sure they're going to anyway, that driveway with people coming out of there taking left turns is where they're gonna go. And it looks dangerous, okay? We haven't killed anybody yet, but those left turns and like the left turns coming out of some of the other shopping centers, in my mind, they should never have been allowed to begin with. Not left turns, you can take a right and go with the traffic, but don't get halfway off. And I never approved of turning left out of a driveway into the left-hand turn lane that's out in the middle between opposing traffic lanes. I never thought that was a good idea. So there was that. And I had a comment about Hirsch mentioned the death rates up. It's really interesting is cars are safer today than they've ever been. You have more protection as a driver than we've ever had. And when you say that the death rate's going up and the injury rate's going up, that becomes really scary. I also noticed that, I guess it's a suggested speed limits, not only in Keizer and Salem and you said you went to Pendleton last week, so did I. Yeah, I assumed the posted speed limit when you got to Eastern Oregon was 90. Because at 80, I was passed by semi-trucks, vans, Volkswagens, everything.
Are you sure your speedometer was okay?
Yes, it's a brand new car, yeah. Anyway, so I think people are just driving faster. And that makes your reaction time even more difficult. And the other one is, I have yet to see anyone, deal with this distracted driving, people using their cell phones in the car. I defy you to go drive like from here to Salem. I thought 6 incidents the last time I went, people driving right next to me on the phone. And
That's
we
one
wonder
of the-
why the accident rate's going up.
That's one of the buttons you can press in that survey, if that's
I
a
know,
concern.
but I'm waiting to read somewhere that somebody's got a good idea.
Yeah.
I have a friend, in-law, that was in the Army, and when they were doing nasty things in different places, but they had some devices that allowed to, like, kill all cell phones for 30 feet. It was interesting. It was, as a teacher, I thought that would be really handy in the classroom.
Little scramblers?
Yeah,
Oh my goodness.
scramble everything within 30 feet of it.
Thank you, David. Rick, do you have anything for the good of the order?
Yeah, just a couple comments, and some of these I've been thinking about for a while. And David talking about the cars and everything being safer. They are. But what's not safer, I don't think, is what's sitting in the driver's seat. That's the problem. I think as a society, there's this feeling of entitlement, and I'm going to do what I want to do. You see it with people running red lights. I mean, it used to be, if a light turned yellow, your thought was, can I stop in time? Now I think most people's thought is, can I get through here?
Yeah.
And it's just a completely different mindset. Seems like it's gotten worse since the pandemic and all the frustrations that everybody went through with that. I think it's just boiled over into people's behavior in general. And it's, the engineering has to be addressed, the funding for improvements has to be addressed, but I don't think that's the only answer. I think there's this behavioral problem that goes along with that.
Well, if you go past Madrona and Commercial, like somebody did, myself, and they're monitoring as you drive through Commercial, through Madrona, your speed. Did you get through that? Was the stoplight there? It's a hefty ticket. I know. So, I know, but that is, I just want to comment on that. For me, it makes me scared now to even go towards any of the video monitored intersections now. Because I'm trying to make the best decision I can possible. And I do agree with you, it's can I make it through this light? But there needs to be more direction on that. I will say that 15 years ago when I moved here and got my first ticket, I've only had 3. He's given me one. But the first one, when I went in front of the judge in Salem, it was that they consider a yellow light a red light. And so that makes a very big difference from where I came from, because that's not how I read it. I mean, luckily I got out of that ticket because I explained myself of how I understood that yellow light worked. And they explained to me how it should work, and of course I've abided by that since. So, education, I think you're right, but how do we wrap our heads around that, and where do we put that? Is this something that maybe we can bring to the Iris Festival? Is this something that maybe we can have at our booth? Can we beefing these areas up that we can get a pamphlet together to hand people out for the education?
I mean, I think we can do that sort of stuff, but I still think that it's more ingrained and more broad than that. David talking about people on their cell phones, and I agree they are. That person is saying it's more important that I be on the phone than I pay attention to what I'm driving. And so that's just a mindset that this society has gotten into, it seems like. My other comment, Mike mentioned the ADA ramps being done, and they're being done all over the place. And there's a few that has really been bugging me. At Brooks Interchange, Shamawa Interchange, Kubler, just as examples, those intersections at the middle of the interchange, the ADA ramps are being put in. I've lived here my whole adult life, and I've never seen a non-soliciting pedestrian anywhere out there, let alone in a wheelchair.
I can tell you the whole story behind those. ODOT got sued.
Yes, we're in the middle
An
of a settlement.
ADA suit from an attorney group out of Eugene, and they won, not ODOT. And they're mandated statewide to put in ramps, ADA ramps, and they are being compliant. and
Boy,
doing
when,
it.
when we sit here all the time and talk about, not getting to walk safely to Kennedy School
Yeah.
and all those kinds of things, because there's no money for it, it just really grates me wrong to see money being put where there is no need for it.
There's no need, yeah. I agree.
Well,
Wow.
they, ODOT didn't win in their arguments.
And the Federal Highway Department has some responsibility and ownership in that as well, which is why they're funding those improvements.
But it's still federal, it's still public money though.
Correct.
But it was a lawsuit that prompted it.
And we're not the only state.
Oh. Saw that.
Okay, I vented, I'm done.
When, do we know when the Iris Festival is going to be this year? Because I mean, the planning and prep for that really,
Second week of August.
second week of
And-
August? Thank you for taking that off my birthday.
Iris Festival the second week of August.
No more irises.
It's Keizer Fest.
That's-
Keizer Fest.
Okay.
And we can have tons and tons of really good safety information and stuff, pamphlets. ODOT's will have those available for us, so.
Okay, well, I'm not sure who I need to talk to, but make sure that if there is a space for us, we will take it. I do want to kind of see this committee being there and pushing safety out during these events whenever we can. I guess, Tammy, would you like to give any updates for the committee reports, member reports?
Yeah, well, I just have a couple questions actually for Mike. I'm gonna pick on you a lot tonight. First to David's mention of the new development on River Road and the left turns. Did the developer need to put in a traffic study report indicating that they analyzed that?
Yes, I'm sure they did. I'm not the project manager on that, and I do not have a lot of information to speak on that, so.
No, that's fine. I didn't expect you to have answers, more of a just put it out there that, yes, that is something that's part of the process. So if we find that there's an issue, just bring it to us and we'll go through the process we need to see what went wrong with that. Because the engineers were supposed to determine if that was going to be safe or not. And I know kind of comes down a hill there and the site isn't perfect. And I'm thinking that's what the concern is. So
It's right next to Wayne's house, too.
Yeah.
So we'll see. So thank you for that. And my second question to you is, one day I was going on Lock Haven or maybe it's called Chemawa. No, it's not. It's before it becomes Chemawa. So towards Keizer Station on Lock Haven at McLeod. And I was at the red light and I witnessed a gentleman in a wheelchair crossing with the pedestrian signal, but he didn't have enough time to get across. So luckily the traffic that now got the green light noticed and waited because it was dark and let him continue his pathway before progressing. But can we just check the timing on that?
If you could please send me an email so I have that, and I'll forward that to City of Salem, and they'll have someone look at it because they maintain our traffic signals. We own them and they maintain them, and that'd be the easiest way, because it'd be clear exactly what you're asking, and then I can just forward that on. I'll send it to dispatch, and they'll create a work order ticket, and it'll get sent into the right spot. Someone will look into it.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah.
That was all I had to say, aside from the updates, if we're gonna discuss that.
I'm just going to give her an update I'm going to give an update, just because Tammy came in a little bit late, but for the NTM, the Neighborhood Traffic Management Program, there are several questions she has. In order to wrap this up, she's going to send them to Michael, and he'll
I want to address it.
Not Mike.
Yes.
Oh,
I feel like
Mike,
we
not
have that
Michael.
down.
Sorry, you're off the hook. You're on the hook. Mike, if you will review these and maybe get some answers to us so we can wrap this up within the next 2 weeks. Is that possible? Please? Okay. Then that can go to the whole committee to review that whole document and bring questions to our next meeting, which we're going to limit down and more just concentrate on this document at our next meeting. And then that way we can turn it over and get everybody's approval to submit to legal. All right?
So I would like to, sorry to
ahead.
interrupt.
No, you're fine.
I did reach out to Bill Lawyer and ask some questions already. He was able to answer for me. The remaining questions I have for you, Mike, are ones he said he couldn't answer because he never actually went through the process.
Neither of us have, and I don't, yeah, we'll see. You and I will be talking and we'll
Okay.
go from there. How's that?
Perfect, but I'd like to share what I did learn from Bill for the record. He said he's not been involved in any, except the four-way stop at Shoreline and Dearborn and the speed table at Cummings, but both of those never followed every step, which is why he was unable to answer a lot of my questions. Although, if he's listening, I really appreciate the answers he did give me with what I addressed.
Tammy, would you move your mic closer? You have a
I'm
very
sorry.
quiet voice.
I will lean in closer to
There you go.
So when I asked him a bunch of questions. So I'm going to read you the question and the short version of the answer I got. How much money goes into the budget for safety improvements? He says when a need is identified, he allocates funds to address it. I asked if there's more requested from council to cover several if needed, and he said yes. What funds do these come from? And he said the street fund, which is our gas taxes. All projects in design or construction are included in the current budget year, and he includes any potential projects. I asked if Public Works reviews all developments for impacts to streets, and he says, yes, we do review all new developments, and they do a traffic impact analysis. That's how I knew to mention what I had mentioned. I asked who the city engineer is, and he said, city engineer is Bill Peterson from AKS Engineering and Forestry, for anybody who didn't know that, because I didn't. I asked about buying temporary facilities to help in the process, and it'll become more clear when we dial it in, but there's a couple steps in the process where it was brought up, why can't we have some temporary measures to try out to see if they would work? And he said, that's something we can talk about because there's some available funding each year for addressing things like this. So that's good to know. I've incorporated it into the document based on his answer. So moving forward, the rest of the questions I have are more about the process and a couple things that we'll talk about.
Awesome. I'm glad you got here in time in order to give us that update. I don't have much to add to this, so I'm going to turn it over to our police liaison. Do you have anything? Powell, correct? Sergeant
Yes.
Powell. Sergeant?
No,
Not yet.
just officer.
Officer, soon to be.
Sergeant Lede.
Okay. Officer Powell.
As far as what you were talking about, sorry. As far as what you were talking about with speed and crashes, that's what we're finding is nationwide, that's a fallout of COVID. A lot of agencies were not proactive in their traffic enforcement, and there were fewer people on the roadway, therefore higher speeds. And now that we're starting to come off of that, the behaviors still remain the same. And then as far as cell phones enforcement, that, I'll speak for me personally, that is one thing because I don't like going to the crashes. I enforce a lot of cell phone laws on River Road specifically because there's more people. It's gotten better across the city. When I started on traffic 5 years ago, I couldn't sit there for more than 10 minutes in any spot and I'd have a violator. And now it can be 30 minutes. And now I have to see it. So sometimes I may know it, but I have to see the phone. So it has gotten better, but there are still that going on. And crashes in Keizer are primarily caused from distracted driving. Mm-hmm. Now, keep in mind, distracted driving does not include just cell phones. There's a lot of different distracted driving methods. The other day I was on a crash and I saw a Labradoodle sitting in the driver's seat. I couldn't even see the driver, but I was on a crash, so I couldn't
Trust those Labradoodles.
So that's an encumbered driver, that's distracted. So, and there's a lot of things, whether you're just looking off the side of the road and that's, rather than straight ahead, that's still the distracted, and thus the cause of most of our crashes.
Interesting. Thank you for that update. Yeah. Mike,
Thank
staff
you.
report, please.
Thank you, Chair Davis. So touch base a little bit on the Cherry ADA curb ramps. Pre-cons next week, like I mentioned, and work's going to start in April. The Cherry Avenue resurfacing bids went out this week. They're due at the end of the month.
Okay.
And that will be for work to begin July 1st, so next fiscal year. So that's coming up. And then we have a McLeod storm line realignment. There is a storm line that's that we're having issues with, that's behind the sidewalk, and we're moving it out into just outside of the curb line on McLeod, closer to Rockledge, and that'll go out to bid here shortly. And lastly, Bill informed me yesterday that if you guys are still interested in pursuing the wayfinding along the parkway, and that is something that we can begin working on an IGA with ODOT.
Hirsch.
And a motion is not needed. It's just, hey, is the committee still interested in pursuing this? And if I see nods, then we'll
The
go down that road.
committee is interested.
So,
Go ahead, Hirsch.
Pat Fisher and I
Okay.
worked some time to do that. And we had the stuff and we just couldn't get the funding. But Gina from ODOT, who was here last month, talked to Bill and said, we can do it.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, we'd like to push
No,
forward on
yeah,
that.
because
so
that
yeah,
would be good
the
for
the
site.
details are hammered out and our attorney looked at it and we're able to do it. So we have to provide the cost estimate and then ODOT will provide the design and their engineers will look at that and I'll go from there. And then we'll install it or have it contracted and installed. And then from then on out, we maintain it. So, and that's good.
Awesome.
We can thank Gina for that.
Thank you, Jim.
Somebody should let Pat know.
I
'Cause y'all went to a lot of work, and then it just kind of fizzled
I,
out.
I think I have her email
Good,
still.
okay.
so.
I'll look and see if I have it and send it to you.
Okay.
If I do.
And then offline, we'll have some more conversations about signage placement. I have some great pictures from Mrs. Berman, but I'm not sure if the signs need to be double-sided. Are we looking one way and not the other way? Where the placement of them, and so the logistics of that. So there's a little bit
think I
of
have some
thought to
of
work
my
out
old
with that.
notes
And I have your
somewhere.
scribbles from many years ago.
Yeah, my
Kurt.
scribbles.
Yeah, I should. So,
Oh, Mike, if you can send in an email, I mean, the committee is very responsive. And if not, just make a call then too.
I'll just report back to Bill, and he's been in communication and emails. There's quite a long chain going on that dates back for a while, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay,
Thank you.
that's it, thank you.
Yeah. Last but not least, council liaison, Robert Hussman, do you have anything for the good of the order?
Yeah, thank you so much. It's funny because at the top of this meeting, we were all mentioning Southeast Keizer and some of the traffic concerns over there, which are definitely getting closer scrutiny from the council. I've been working with Mayor Clark on a small project to hopefully mitigate some of it. It would be at the bend at Candlewood and Brooks, near where the MLK Junior Parkway path goes along. We've contacted Mr. Lawyer and are looking at installing flashing lights and a couple signs because we don't want people speeding around that bend and cutting the lane lines like we do sometimes see. Plus, that's an intersection with pretty poor sidewalk coverage as well, and bikes tend to enter the roadway right at that bend, so it offers some tricky situations for drivers. All that to say, though, Southeast Keizer is definitely a squeaky wheel, and I think the council recognizes that there is a general lack of infrastructure there. Some of that has been noted in terms of long-term planning and preparations to that regard, but really, please keep putting the pressure on us. Please keep letting us know where it is that you see opportunities to mitigate or control the flow of traffic. If anything where you see opportunities for council to enact policy around traffic that allows for all modes to be able to pass through an area safely, because within the built environment, while we can change some of it, there are few answers to the problems that we face, and these diversion or control techniques absolutely all help. So hit us up. Thank you for the discussion today. It has been awesome. I've been very glad to hear everyone's opinions in this regard. The project at Candlewood and Brooks is small, but hopefully it's the first step towards something even better in that part of town.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
And real quick, Bill has asked that we get a cost estimate and see what that is for. It'll be a 12-inch flashing amber beacon, kind of like we have coming into the roundabout off Shamawa. So we're researching 2 of those, so.
Yes, thank you again for that. Appreciate all the help from Public Works on this.
Yes. Couldn't do it without them. Well, looks like the last things I just need to report of other business is council monitoring, planning commission is Tammy for April 3rd and April 12th.
Oh, yes.
Okay. And our next meeting is, it says March 16th. I think we didn't update that. April 16th-ish, 17th-ish.
So it's April 20th.
Oh, 20th. Okay, April 20th. And we'll adjourn. Thank you.
Funny about those 88, you know where Hefner,